Will all the mysteries of X-18 finally be solved? Or will the laboratory return in the DLC? Hello Stalkers, DEDKAF here. Patch 1.9 is out, and yes, the patch turned out to be small. 2 hours of content, a few bugs fixed, and new loading screens added, in which GSC quietly expanded the lore of the D4 treaty between duty and freedom. Previously they fed us lines about peace, chewing gum, and that the faction war had fizzled out. Now the text has been changed. No rainbows and friendship. There are no major clashes, but stalkers from both factions continue to disappear without a trace after running into each other. The Cold War in the zone is officially confirmed. Do not be upset about the fact that the patch turned out to be small, and still do not forget that the developers are focused on the engine update and the DLC, so there is no point in chewing over this topic for the 100th time. GSC even started a promotion with collectible cards and an almanac, where a ton of lore popped up. They even teased the X-19 laboratory, but that is all for another video. Something else is much more important. The doors of Laboratory X-18 are opening again, and what is hidden behind them? The new quest unlocks after completing the storyline on the Wild Island, right after the Hot on the Trail quest. But there is an unpleasant catch here. The window to complete it firmly shuts with the beginning of the first assault on the Duggar. The decision by the developers, frankly speaking, is very controversial. Yes, on PC this oversight has already been fixed by the community. Modders quickly rolled out a fix that allows you to start the X-18 quest at any point in the story. But what should console players do? Alas, there are no options here. You will have to grit your teeth and sadly roll back your saves. However, after the uproar, the developers made a decision that the DLC storyline can be started before the point of no return. But enough about technical workarounds. Let us move on to the sweetest part, a detailed breakdown of the plot and the hidden details of this quest. Running around the outskirts of the garbage, we catch a radio signal from a technician nicknamed Diode. He asks for help with a certain laboratory and sets up a meeting right on the slag heap. Upon meeting, we learn a curious backstory. Previously, Diode lived at Yaniv, where crowds of zombified stalkers seriously ruined life for everyone. And no, this is not Nitro. Mentions of the Stalker Nitro appeared in the stories of the collectible cards. Unexpectedly, the blueprints of an interesting gizmo fall into Diode's hands, a device capable of turning aggressive zombies into herbivores. The emitter was built literally out of garbage and sticks. The result was predictable. The device malfunctioned, the ranks of the zombified only grew, and the stalkers suffered casualties. But recently Diode found out that someone actually managed to get this device working. Now his goal is to find the correct emitter and understand where they made a mistake. Diode found a lead on the location of the emitter in Nesta's belongings. There was a note with a keycard. In it, Nesta reports to a professor about the testing of the device in a laboratory. The technician checked the card. It works. So, it is time for us to go underground. After descending into the complex and reaching the main room with the vats, we meet Professor Miklukha. It turns out that he was the one who helped Nesta refine the device. But there is a catch. Aside from reducing aggression in zombies, the emitter causes severe hallucinations in normal people. This very side effect is exactly what interested Nesta. With the proper power settings, the irradiated person breaks and gives up any information. The professor realized that his brainchild was turned against people, and now he is eager to destroy the device so that it does not fall into the wrong hands. For this, he needs skiff. Miklukha asks us to reboot the emitter in order to safely extract the core. After the reboot and shooting our way through a wave of mutants, we return to the professor. A dialogue ensues, the outcome of which determines the finale of the quest. In total, there are 3 endings provided. Option 1. We take the emitter for ourselves, return to Diode, and give the device to him. As a reward, we receive gratitude and a stack of coupons. Option 2. We leave the emitter with the professor, and come back to Diode empty-handed. He gets angry, upset, and the quest ends. An important detail. If you leave the device with Miklukha, he persistently advises us to stay away from the Iron Forest, and after all, this very location will become key in the upcoming Cost of Hope DLC. Option 3, the most profitable and canonical. We kill the professor, take the emitter and his PDA. In the records, we find the coordinates for the delivery point, the electric field. Getting there, we climb onto the roof, start the generator, and a locked door opens. Inside we find a laptop and a note directly connected to Lukash. We enter the code, leave the emitter for the former leader of freedom and claim our reward. Or, if you want to earn more, then do not leave the emitter and take it to Diode. In that very laptop, a QR code is hidden. If you follow it, an archive is downloaded with an intriguing note. Karma, got a new job. Serious business. We are hitting the Iron Forest. Gather the team. Take the ones who keep their mouths shut. I don't want any stupid questions. Get the gear, too. Ammo, medkits, armor, consumables, all to be ordered today. Everything needs to be ready, no delays. And karma. Let's hope your name isn't just a buzzword. Nod. The archive also contains an audio intercept of a conversation between two mercenaries, Roy and Fly. They discuss the readiness of the laboratory, the massive financial expenses, and the strange behavior of their boss, Nord. Fly ironically asks if Roy wants to go bow down to Miklukha, like Bogey did, who is now living his best life and stuffing his belly. Roy replies harshly that he is a mercenary, not some scumbag, and he has no intention of running under the wing of either freedom or duty. He knows who he stands behind. And now let's chew over what all this means. Judging by everything, passing the emitter to Lukash will become the canonical ending. The picture coming together is terrifying. Lukash plans to put together an army of tame zombified and head with it to the Iron Forest. A mercenary squad led by Karma is advancing there as well. And even Zulu does not bypass the Iron Forest. General Voronin constantly sends him there in search of something. Meanwhile, another group of the Syndicate is stirring up something sinister within the walls of X-18. In parallel, a conflict is developing within Freedom itself. Mavka, angered by the fact that her mentor Lukash did not take her with him, is preparing an assassination attempt on Miklukha. She incites Shah to a coup, saying, "We remove the spineless leader, restore order, return the faction to its true ideological course, and strike it rich." We find confirmation of this if we kill Shah. In his PDA there is a message from Mavka, where she writes that she has hidden everything needed for the murder at Rostock. And indeed, a silenced pistol lies in the specified stash. It seems GSC decided to pull off the incredible and bring back insanely interesting concepts into the current Stalker 2 from two eras at once. The early builds of the original trilogy and the leaked plot of the cancelled Stalker 2 from 2011. According to the design documents, Freedom was not a unified whole. It was supposed to split into several warring factions with their own leaders. Upon arriving at the faction's base, the main character found himself in the epicenter of a fierce conflict between Lukash and the suddenly reappeared founder of the faction. The player had a choice. Side with the new Freedom and expose Lukash, or help him hide the evidence, wrap up his affairs and manage to go beyond the barrier before the fuss started. And there was something to hide. According to the old plot, Lukash was in collusion with the head of security of S.T.A.L.K.E.R. Their main goal was to establish an uninterrupted smuggling flow of artifacts outside the zone, and this was done in close cooperation with the mercenaries. Whatever the player did, the truth came out. The conspiracy between Freedom and the shadowy handlers of the mercenaries was revealed. The barrier fell. Cornered, Lukash with the remnants of his loyal men took a desperate step. He headed to the highly classified Izhevsky installation. Lukash captured this emitter with one insane goal: to accumulate a massive artificial emission in order to make the mercenaries pay for their betrayal once and for all. If the player had previously helped Lukash, the mercenaries would frantically get in touch and warn. If this madman is not stopped, his emission will destroy absolutely all living things on the territory of the zone. Lukash himself coldly advised the main character over the radio not to interfere. Everything ended with an epic battle right in front of the emitter, and the ending depended on whose side the player took. Looking at the current plot of the sequel, it becomes obvious that these old, cancelled ideas are now being actively reworked and adapted to modern realities. We once again have an absolute weapon that Lukash wants to get his hands on. Mercenaries led by Karma and Nord figure in again, pursuing their own shady interests. And again, a split and a coup are brewing inside Freedom, where Mavka and Shah are weaving intrigues against Miklukha. The cancelled law is coming to life right before our eyes. In the release version, the mysteries of X-18 end here. But let us look at things soberly. The free quest from the Sealed Truth update is just a careful teaser. They slightly open the door for us, let us feel the oppressive atmosphere of the complex, and tossed us a couple of documents. Yet in the early concepts of the sequel, they plan to connect X-18 with a massive underground level beneath the slag heap at the garbage. According to the original plot, a group of diggers lived under the slag heap, and in the depths, there was a huge gravitational arch anomaly generating tons of artifacts. Skiff was supposed to investigate the case of Nesta, who abruptly got rich on this loot. These catacombs were not a dead end, but a long passage leading the player into an unexplored area of X-18. In the release, Nesta's story was completely rewritten. His business is now not connected to artifacts at all, and those very large-scale dungeons were completely cancelled. This is a very early concept that the developers will definitely not return to. Waiting for them to let us in there is pointless. The real future of X-18 is in the Cost of Hope DLC. Those very sealed sectors with VATs were clearly saved by the developers for the paid DLC. We will be able to fully descend there only with the release of the Cost of Hope expansion. And we already have proof. From the localization strings of patch 1.4, it became known that X-18 will feature in one of the expansion side quests. It will be handed out by a medic from Malachite nicknamed Spitzer. And in this side quest, 2 development paths are planned. On the side of the Stalkers or on the side of the mercenaries. But what is most important? Bogey, Miklukha's personal bodyguard, will definitely be involved among the mercenaries. Since the people of the Freedom Leader are involved in the affairs of X-18, let's put the lore puzzle together. Where does Miklukha get such an unhealthy interest in secret laboratories? The answer lies in the events of 2012, which were revealed in the stories of the collectible cards. Even before Strelok disabled the Brain Scorcher, Miklukha with a small squad made a daring raid past the barrier. Their goal was to study the possibility of controlling the appearance of anomalies. The group reached an unknown X-laboratory with erased numbers. What happened there is staggering. The squad fell out of reality. According to the fighters' feelings and the provisions, they spent about a week there, but in fact, they were gone for almost a month, from late March to mid-May. Absolutely terrifying things were happening inside the complex. In the vats were creatures that not even tall tales circulated about, wrong, terrifying mutants, which looked like they were assembled in a hurry and without instructions. At the exit from the laboratory, anomalies suddenly formed, tightly locking the squad inside. And while the fighters panicked, Miklukha remained unnaturally calm. He went into the locked wing of the laboratory alone, returning more and more focused. The fighters heard him muttering about some agreements, about the other side, and he also mentioned the MDST and a mysterious representative. To get out, Miklukha performed a ritual. He pulled one of the terrifying mutants out of the vat and dragged it into the closed wing. Right after that, the anomalies blocking the exit faded away. The passage opened. Exactly here lies the true reason for the conflict with Lukash. Returning in the autumn of 2012, Miklukha stated that he had contacted the MDST and the representative himself. This knowledge completely changed the understanding of the zone's laws. Miklukha tried to convince the active leader of Freedom, Lukash, of this, but their views drastically diverged. A harsh split occurred, after which Lukash disappeared without a trace, harboring a grudge, and Miklukha usurped power. And now, in the current events of Stalker 2, we will see the consequences of this feud. There is another strong argument in favor of the fact that the theme of laboratories is just beginning to unfold. Look at the collectible cards. The art for Laboratory X-18 depicts a huge chamber with a climatic artifact inside. However, this art actually belongs to Laboratory X-12, as does the image on the X5 card. Perhaps they conducted experiments on artifacts in these chambers, or, conversely, powered the entire complex with their energy. But the key word here is climatic. Already now we can build theories. If in the Cost of Hope expansion they reveal to us the nature of spatial anomalies, which, according to my assumption, will fill the entire zone, and not just Lemansk, then the climatic artifacts from X-12 are a direct foundation for the next, second-story DLC about the Cold Island, which froze during the second Caribbean experiment. But we will talk about all this in detail in the next video. Smash the like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss anything. And remember, waiting out an mission in X-18 is a frankly terrible idea. Until next time, Stalkers.